If you've listened this long throughout this first episode, I greatly appreciate you. I know it's been a long 3 parts, but this is the third and final part, and I hope you enjoy.
She confesses that she does maybe heard a little bit of a gurgle or a cry while the baby was in the toilet, which leads everyone to think that this baby was alive. And towards the end of this video, during the interview, it's brought to Skylar's attention that she's in fact getting arrested because of trying to cremate her baby, because this is in fact something that they can use to arrest her with. They tell her she can talk to her parents before they take her, and she agrees. While waiting for her parents to come in, she asks questions like, will the judge be nice? What am I going to have to wear in jail? I'm going to have to sleep there. Just, again, thinking of Skylar. Mr. Richardson walks in and says, honey, tell us what's going on. The police said you have to tell us because you're 18. And Skylar says, I tried to cremate the baby, just a little. He then asks, so you delivered a live baby? And Skylar replies with, yeah, I think, but I'm not sure. Skylar's arrested and she is in jail for 7 days before being bailed out. 3 other anthropologists, pathologists who work and examine these remains of this baby were brought in to examine the bones. They 3 claim that there is actually, in fact, no thermal injury whatsoever, and that when the first woman, Susan Brown, looked at the bones, they appeared to be wet in those photos, and that's why they looked a little charred. So there's actually no evidence of these bones ever being burned, so Skylar shouldn't have even been arrested from that, apparently. I can say Dr. Susan Brown still claims that there was thermal injury. She never backed down from that. She does think that the baby was alive when it was born, but just looking at the bones, there is no evident proof of that. So on July 24, 2017, a 3rd search warrant is taken to the house, and this time they go inside of the house to where they can examine the whole area, which I kind of feel like should have happened the day that they went and got the remains. I feel like they should have looked into the situation then. Apparently they didn't. They processed the house for any blood to collect electronics and take photos for evidence. They took phones, tablets, that type of ordeal. They took a DNA swab from Skylar. They also went over to Trey Johnson's house and took a swab from him to make sure that he was, in fact, the baby's dad, which he was. And what they found was odd was that Skylar's bed had been moved. They found that out because when they performed the blue star, which is a chemical that responds and lights up to blood, when they applied it underneath where her bed was now at, a big area lit up. The officer at the scene said it almost looked like a baby's torso, like maybe she had had the baby in her room. I don't know, that's just what was said. But when Blue Star was performed in the bathroom, there was so much blood that one of the officers actually kind of chuckled a little bit because he was so shocked at how much blood there was, which in turn the defense took with and ran with, saying, why is that funny, when the officer was just like, I was just in shock that there was that much. The defense in the courtroom did want to kind of rule out as much of this blood as possible by saying, did you know that Blue Star reacts to bleach and cleaner? Which may be true, but at the same time, there's going to be blood present if this girl went through childbirth. I'm just saying that. They cut out the piece of carpet for evidence. Lighters, all the pills, her birth control laxatives and diet pills, and like I said, electronics were taken for evidence. Blue Star was used in the hallway leading to the bathroom, and there was footprints visible leading to the bathroom from blood. A tote was found in the house that was filled with 3 empty bleach containers and 4 to 5 empty alcohol bottles, which is still a little odd. And I don't really know what I believe here, but I know a lot of people do think that her mom was in on it too, knew about it and helped her with everything, and then just tried to play it off like her parents never knew anything. A professor was brought in to talk about Skylar's false confession and trying to rule out that the second interview was definitely a false confession because of them like putting words in her mouth. A psychologist was even brought in to talk about a diagnosis of personality disorder that started when she was sexually abused when she was 13 or 14 by a boyfriend. And from there, Skylar had a personality disorder and had a really hard time with people of authority. So that would explain a false confession and being too scared to tell anybody about her pregnancy. A school counselor said that she never thought Skylar looked pregnant and that she could never see Skylar doing anything of that sort. I can say throughout all of this, the prosecutor's research made a lot of sense for this trial, and I feel like towards the end, the prosecutor really did kill this case. There was internet searches that popped up from April 17th, 2017 of what happens at your first gyno visit, what happens at the gyno when you're pregnant. They were both deleted and were found, but no other searches were found. So there was no proof of those for evidence either of how to get rid of a baby or anything like that. So could that have been a false confession too? We will never know. So at this point, emotions are high, and if you're like me, you may be a little torn. At one point, I kind of feel for this poor girl because she is very, very immature. Her parents obviously have not filled her in on a lot about life, and it kind of sounds like she's gotten everything handed to her too, which kind of makes us a little bit extra in the immaturity level. You feel bad because, I mean, those text messages from her mom are just like horrific. This girl has a personality disorder. She has eating disorders. So it's a devastating thing. And honestly, if her baby in fact was born dead, and you know, this baby could have even died from falling into the toilet, you just never know. That would be an awful thing to go through. I'm not saying it's right whatsoever. It's just an awful situation. That's kind of how I felt on this whole ordeal until Brandon Saylor was brought to the courtroom. They decided to pull up all history of text messages from the morning of May 7th, 2017. So this is after giving birth and burying her child the same day. I do want to say how bad I feel for Brandon at some point, because not only was this super embarrassing for him to have read throughout, and he didn't have to read it, but he was on the stand while it was being read, and it was just super awkward, and you really feel for him. And at this point during the trial, what I factored from it was that they were no longer together, which I'm sure made things a lot worse because it had been a couple of years and it was just really awkward. And back at that time, you see the contact names. So in his phone, Skylar is Skylar with a heart. And in her phone, Brandon's name, instead of Brandon, is actually Big Dick Willie, which is so embarrassing, and chose for his face to not be seen during this, and I'm sure that's why. So on May 7th, 2017, after giving birth and burying her kid, Brandon texts, "Good morning, beautiful babe." Skylar replies around 11:30 and says, "Good morning, my amazing boy." He says, "How do you feel?" And she says, "I'll tell you all about it later, but last night was like the worst ever. And I didn't go to sleep till 5:30, but I feel so much better this morning. I'm happy." It kills me. It hurts my stomach. It kills me how this girl talks throughout these text messages. Brandon says, "Good babe, I hate that you went through that without me." And Skylar says, "It's okay, I'm just so glad it's over now." He says, "Me too, babe, I'm so glad you're done feeling bad." She says, "So am I. I hope I never feel like that ever again. That was traumatic." He says, "I know, babe, I'm so sorry you had to go through that." She says, "I'm about to get off and then work out for a bit and then go home and get ready. My family's gonna eat probably at like 4:45-ish. If you want to come over, if you'd like to come, and then we can hang out," is what she says. Later that night, after hanging out, they discuss their love for each other over and over again. But one message that really stuck out to me was from Skylar. She texts him saying, "You plus my family plus my dogs equals the perfect life with hearts." So now I'm going to rewind back to that morning of May 7th at 11:30. While she's texting Brandon, she also texts her mom. She texts her mom, "I'm literally speechless with how happy I am. My belly is back. OMG. I am never, ever, ever, ever letting it get like this again. You're about to see me look freaking better than before. OMG." This text message was deleted, but it was recovered. It makes me sick to my stomach. Her mom says, "That's what I'm talking about. Way to be great attitude. It paid off. I am so, so proud. You will look amazing at school tomorrow." Skylar says, "I am literally so excited now just for dinner to wear something cute. Yay, my belly is back. Now I am taking this opportunity to make it amazing." Is that not strange for her daughter to say, like, keep saying my belly is back? That's what makes, I think, a lot of people think her mom did know something about this. Skylar talks about being in a little pain, but working out all day, and how she couldn't stop looking at herself in the mirror. At dinner that night, she bled through her clothes and texted her mom that she was changing into jeans and asked how her mom's day was. Her mom said, "Not too bad. How was yours?" Skylar says, "Great. I feel like a literal new person. I'm confident and happy. I have been strutting down every hallway, killing it, and been thinking about how awesome I'm gonna look this summer." Literally the same day she buried her daughter. Kim says, "Yay, now that made my day." More disturbing messages back and forth about Skylar's body. On May 18th, so this is a little while later, a couple weeks later, and mind you, during her weight loss journey after giving birth to her child that nobody knew about, she was working out every single day, and literally every single day she went to the bathroom at the gym, took pictures of her body, and sent them to her mom for praise. But on May 18th, she texted her mom, "You know what's crazy? When I went to the gyno on April 26th, I was 149 pounds, and today, on May 18th, I weighed 119 pounds. That's literally 30 pounds gone." Kim says, "Literally amazing and crazy to do the math on that. I'm so proud of you to do this for you, and you are so happy now. That's all I ever want for you." Again, pushing weight loss on a daughter with eating disorders. On July 12th, after the appointment, Skylar says, "Finally all good. Everything is all good. My prescription will be ready in about 2 hours so I can go get it later. I like the lady I went to a lot better. I think I will keep going to her." And her mom says, "Great. See, all the better and done." Little did she know that's when they were contacting the police. After her phone was taken away from her, there was some messages between her and Brandon on Kim's phone. I guess she just thought that they were never going to take Kim's phone, but they did. Skylar texts Brandon, and this is after there's all these people at her house. There's a crime scene marked off. It's all over the news that there's a baby remains are found in her backyard. And Skylar texts Brandon, says, "I'm so, so sorry. Are you going to break up with me?" Brandon says, "No, can you start to explain what's going on?" And Skylar says, "Not really right now. They were investigating something in our backyard. They had to talk to all of us. It was terrible and scary and horrible, and we can't even go home right now with all the people at our house. Are you going to leave me?" Brandon says, "I'm here. I love you, and I will support you no matter what. I just need to know what's really going on. I'm always going to be here for you." The same texts kind of go back and forth. That he's here for her. She's sorry, but she just says, "I can't say much right now because of everything, but it's fine." And she also says, "Thank God I couldn't handle the thought of losing you." She talks about the media and how it's going to say crazy things, but asks him to please stay with her. Brandon tells her that he will be with her no matter what, and he's lucky to have, and then she says that she's so lucky to have him. Brandon does says one of the biggest questions is who the father was, and she tells him about Trey and all the details. I don't understand why they wouldn't call each other so that they wouldn't have this evidence, but again, they're just stupid, immature kids. Brandon says he just wished that the baby was his since he's her boyfriend. It's literally like, you mean the baby that she buried in her backyard and you have no idea what happened to this baby beforehand. It's just, ugh. I do want to get to the verdict on all of this. So Skylar was going up against aggravated murder, involuntary manslaughter, child endangerment, and abuse of a corpse. The prosecutor nailed the closing argument, I think anyways. She said that the defendant never had any intention on having her daughter. The decision of Brooke's daughter's life was made before her child was born. She was never going to see the light of day. That was her perfect life, and baby Richardson never fit into that equation, referring to the text, "You plus my family plus my dogs equals the perfect life." I don't even want to get into the defense because I'd be here forever. It was a slideshow about how they should think about making their decision, talking about the jury, how to make their decision on, instead of what has been said about the evidence and the facts. The prosecutor finished up, and by how good it was pulled off, the defense, you could tell, was livid. Trey Johnson's mother made a touching statement about her granddaughter. She stated, "I would have taken her in a heartbeat and raised her with my son, and you could have gone to college and your life." So obviously she thinks that there was some foul play there. Mr. Richardson also made a statement that was 2 seconds, and I was actually shocked that this is what he had to say. He said, "She is having a hard time with an eating disorder, so anything you can do to get her home to us as soon as possible so we can help her get through it." The defense also played the eating disorder card and said she has had to live through enough and for the jury to take that into consideration. Mrs. Brooke Skylar Richardson's statement was, "Thank you, Your Honor. I would do anything and above what you would ask, and I understand that. I just wanted to say how sorry I was. I can sometimes be selfish, and I would like to think that I have become better knowledge that I have upset everyone and hurt so many people with everything I've done, and I'm so sorry." And as she looks at Trey Johnson's mom, she again says, I'm really sorry, and I understand. Thank you." Judge does state that Skylar showed a disregard for life, and the jury deliberated for over 4 hours, and as the verdict is given, Skylar's of course sobbing. She is found not guilty on all of them but abuse of a corpse. She is found guilty of that, and she could face up to 6 months in a county jail. But instead, the judge gives her 3 years community control and 7 days of county jail, and he credited her 7 days that she already spent after the thermal injury and all of that came into effect. So this girl got to go straight home and just serve 3 years community control, which she's still doing. Like I said, this trial happened in September of this year. He did tell her that since she did show disregard for life, if she violated her community control, she could face up to 12 months in prison. Annabelle Richardson's remains had been released to the Richardson family with regard to proper burial and the Johnson's family present. So just from all of this, I am pretty, like I said, I told you guys my thoughts on this before I read the text messages. After the text messages, there is no way in hell that this girl did not think into this a lot more, and I don't think that she should have just walked free like that. Like, I get she has, the 3 years of community control, but no, I feel like there should have been more. I think that this girl should have at least gotten child endangerment, if anything. I get that there's not a lot of proof to back up murder and manslaughter, but child endangerment, she didn't call for help. She didn't try to go to the hospital. She didn't tell anybody. And not just that, she never bought this baby anything. She never planned to even have this kid. And that's what's so devastating, is it's just like, if your child was alive that night, what would you have done? Like, "Hey mom, I just had a baby." Like, she, just like the prosecutor said, this little girl was never going to see the light of day. And I really do stand by that. So whether it was a stillbirth or not, I feel like if this baby was born alive, she would not be alive for that long. That is my opinion on it, 100%. I do want to hear from you guys. I am starting up an Instagram page. It is going to be Caffeine Crime Podcast. I will have it in the description, but I would love for you guys to go and comment on under the picture of this episode 1, Brooke Skylar Richardson, and let me know your guys' thoughts on it. Do you think the mom was involved? What do you think went down that night? Because I feel like everybody has their own thing that they think happens. It's just another case that we'll just never know. The only person that will ever know is Skylar, maybe her mom. I did want to mention this last little piece because as I was wrapping up my notes on this, I had seen that Skylar came out for her first interview since the trial in November of this year, and she says in an interview with Cosmopolitan that Her biggest regret is not having the strength to tell someone that she was pregnant. She said, "I wish I would have done it differently. I'm plagued by guilt every day for not telling someone." She also retold her story, which sounded once again different, so her story's never been matched up. She said that she experienced a stillbirth, that her baby never cried, never opened her eyes, and the umbilical cord was in fact never attached. She named the baby Annabelle and then buried her, and she said, "I decided to call her Annabelle. I didn't know anyone with that name, so I knew whenever I heard it, it would remind me of my baby girl." She discussed her depression during the trial and that she wished she could have died in place of Annabelle. Annabelle was buried in a plot far from their local town. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm assuming because of press and media. But Skylar states, "It is such a relief to know that Annabelle is now in her final resting spot. I visit every week." Take what you will from that. I hope you guys still enjoyed this first episode. I know that I'm going to be riled up at the end of all of these, but I really am into these cases, and I always want to pick my brain on what I think happened, and that's why I would love to hear from you guys over on my Instagram. But if you are still interested in watching this case or trial, I recommend going straight to the closing arguments and sentencing, because the rest is honestly a huge mess of repetitiveness, and there's a lot that you'll sit through. I literally sat through this whole trial and thought I was gonna die. Like, it was awful. So like I said, my blog will be up when this is posted, so I will have links and all that kind of stuff to the closing arguments, the sentencing, and her interviews in the interrogation room, some photos, and that type of ordeal if you guys would like to go check it out. But yeah, I hope the rest of you caffeine addicts and true crime addicts love this episode and the season that I'm bringing to you guys. I'm super excited to work on some upcoming episodes, and I hope you guys are excited for them. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and I will be back next Tuesday with episode 2.